mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. He's alive! He's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. I am your mistress of ceremonies, Sam, and I am joined, as always, by Dan from Bleeding Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
Hi, Dan. It's not a bad impression. I'm quite pleased with myself.
It's not, but I wasn't expecting it now.
No, I was holding that one back for you.
Oh, wow. Oh, it'll make sense very soon.
Or it won't.
I won't. Who knows with this episode, but thank you for joining us for another episode of the Monsters Up North podcast this week. This week we decided to do what is a cult classic.
Correct. Apparently.
Supposedly. Don't know who give it that, but we are here. We are definitely here. So I'll do the disclaimer and then we'll get into this week's episode because, oh my God. I've just heard Anne shout at these Fortnite games. So everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us on our Facebook pages, the Discord, or the comments section, where we can have an open discussion. But what we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong. We can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of nerdism.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. Yeah, don't do it. Not for this episode anyway. It really is. Not for this episode anyway. So, BasketCase. The 1982 horror, written and directed by Frank Henenlotter?
Something like that.
Henenlotter? In his feature directorial debut. My God, they've picked some names here. Starring Kevin Van Hentenryck.
Something.
But yeah, Terri Susan Smith and the amazing Beverly Bonner.
Yeah.
Its mother conceived it. You won't believe it. As Monsters Up North brings you her BasketCase.
I'm a BasketCase after watching this. Bear in mind, I have seen this many times over the years. Not a lot, but enough. And then the minute I started watching it this time, I was like, oh.
Oh.
Oh. Okay.
Oh. I will give it its props. It was better than Dolly Dearest.
Let's be honest, not a lot.
I mean, that is setting the bar really low.
Yeah.
But it was better than Dolly Dearest. I said to you on the last week's episode that this was a movie that I've been told countless amount of times that I've seen it. I have not seen it.
You definitely remember seeing this film for sure.
You would.
Yeah.
You would. You'd remember all the screaming.
All of it.
There's shit tons of it.
Pretty much, I'd say 45% of the dialogue is
and 20% of it is just women screaming.
Or a lot of women in wigs. I mean, dependent on
who was it? It's the love interest. Oh, what's her name? Sharon.
Yeah.
Terri Susan Smith.
Yeah.
Yep, she wore a wig throughout the whole thing.
I would say most of those women did. The only person I think that didn't was not Tim Curry, who's the lead guy, Duane. And I kept calling him not Tim Curry because if you look at him and look at Tim Curry in his very, very early years, way before he even did Rocky Horror, There's some similarities in the hair, the look, just everything seems to
Get that.
face. There's very there's something going on there.
I think that's what we'll call Duane, not Tim Curry.
Not Tim
Because
Curry.
I totally get where you're coming from. Even the mouth, like even the way he talks is
Yeah.
Oh, that would have made it a bit more interesting last night if I knew that. This movie is actually more interesting for the background of it and than the actual film itself. So I feel like we should go into the movie to then put together the pieces. It might, I don't know.
It won't, but it might.
It might not. Because the opening of this film, see, I did tell you in the Discord, anyone who's watching from the Discord, that you and anyone else who wants to know, it's available on YouTube. But Dan did say it's available on Amazon.
For free, yeah. On Amazon. Yeah.
So I watched it on YouTube and I was quite happy with the quality. I realized that it was the 4K cleaned up version that came out in 2017.
Yeah.
The opening of this film is fucking ridiculous.
What, you mean you don't want to run around and pretend there's something chasing you, which there clearly isn't, but maybe there is in a house?
I have to say the kills in this cracked me up. Every single one of them.
But that was his point. He said that he didn't want serious. He wanted to keep threading. He wanted the whole thing to be played serious, but he wanted to make sure there was a thread of comedy in there without it being like slapstick or something.
Yeah, and I totally got that by the end.
I feel that the kills were intentionally bad, though. I mean, they weren't budgetary bad; they were just intentionally bad. Because
just to look what you're getting killed by.
Yeah,
I don't even know what it is. Belial actually is.
It's a growth.
It's just a growth.
Brother. Yeah, it's basically Duane's twin brother. Or twin sister, depending on what you read, because some said it's a sister, the majority say it's brother, but they were basically separated when they were younger, and neither of them wanted to be separated, but they somehow managed to keep Belial alive, and Belial was kept in the basket by Duane. And
that basket.
I still find it funny that Belial has a surname. His name is Duane Bradley. Kind of takes the old the
mystique out of him.
Yeah, because Duane's surname was Bradley, so they said Belial was his brother, therefore he's also Bradley.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. Well, the director writer of this movie, which is I forget his name now. Frank Hellotter. Literally came up with the idea because he liked the fact of having a monster in a basket.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
This movie is batshit crazy, and the fact that it's almost like he did it because he could.
Oh yeah.
But nothing was. It was never meant to be anything. It was just something he did, like something he did in his spare time.
Yeah, I mean, he even said that he hated every second of this film because nothing went right, and he was constantly second guessing himself because of how low a budgetary restraint they had. I mean, I've read that they only had $6,000 in 1982's money, which is about 35 grand by today's standards, to make this whole movie. And that's including the special effects and the stop-and-go animation and all that sort of stuff. So everything.
Animation. Oh my god, I could not stop laughing.
It's very good.
It was impressive. This movie is so low budget that the crew, if you had one job, you would be doubling up for 7 other jobs.
Yeah.
Because everyone had to pitch in. If you heard a woman walking in heels, you were hearing the director walking in heels because he did the sound bars afterwards. The noise of Belial is Duane Bradley, is the guy who plays Duane Bradley. The puppet tree originally starts with Duane, and then moves into the director's niece, because it started to shrink, and she was 6 years old, and she was the only one whose hand could fit in the puppet.
Yeah, whenever you see any of that, the scenes of just the hands, that's Kevin. That's
Frank.
the director.
Oh,
Frank.
no, Kevin. No, Kevin's Duane. Frank's the director.
Frank. The hands of Frank. He did a lot of the solo scenes with just the gloves on and was doing like the off-screen stuff because he then didn't have to employ anybody else. He could run the camera himself. He didn't have to have lighting, sound. You know, he knew how to set all that up. So
he didn't believe in permits. So so to record outside of the Statue of Liberty was done illegal. The ones in the street were done illegal. He wasn't allowed to be there.
I'll tell you a little story about how they get away with that. Quite a lot of them do, though, because even someone like Jon Favreau did it when he did Elf. There's that scene where Will Ferrell's running down the street and he's, "Hi, how are you? It's Christmas!" You know, he gets really excited. There was no permit for that. They're all genuine people off the street that Will Ferrell's screaming in the face of. That's not actors, it's not actresses.
That's crazy.
No permit got for that. So they do it, but I think they get forgiven to a degree because if it's going to bring people to that area.
Yeah, you're not showing it in a bad light.
No. And this film never hit big anyway. It's a cult film, but it never hit big time. So no one would have seen it anyway. So.
And that's probably what he was thinking at the time. Yeah. The best thing I read about this movie is the end credits.
Yeah.
That honestly tickled my funny bone. The end credits have to be filled out. There wasn't enough crew. So they started making names up.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of people in there.
Yeah. The credits are quite amusing. They actually even use the fake in the fake name credits is which is a hark back to one of our episodes. They use Watson Pritchard, which is the house on Haunted Hill, which we recently did. That I thought was quite amusing. So they were picking random characters from movies and just sticking them in, which I thought was a really good.
And they were repeating names as well. So if you look, you might find, say, a John Smith in there several times. They just kept using the same name. I thought that was genius.
So, you know, when you watch this film and you see how sparse everything looks as well, like when he goes into this hotel, basically because they didn't have the budget to buy things, so they went dumpster diving and found like a shitty lamp and a crappy bedpost and all of that was just stuff that they found in skips.
Yeah, the actual, you know, when he walks into the hotel and he's got the basket and all the guys around there, what, you know, the little desk bit he's in, that's a lift.
Makes sense, actually.
That's a lift that's just had like cardboard put on it, so it's kind of looks like he's in like a little alcove. But yeah, that is a lift in a building.
That works well though. He did good. I'll give him that. That's a good use of space.
Everything else, anything like to do with the apartments, that was in, it was a friend of a friend's, like who, but no, there was no sound stage or anything like that. They didn't even have a camera dolly. No. They used a wheelchair.
A wheelchair, and he's literally being like wheeled up and down when he's filming. I mean, if it works.
Honestly, I find this is like, you know, we talk about like when Neil talked about his university movies. This is what I'm thinking it is.
I would say it's just something he had in his head he had to get out. And I feel like in doing so, he wasn't expecting much of it. This movie did so well for the midnight showings because this is what it got released as. It was a midnight movie. So it was classed, it came out around the time of exploitation cinema. So exploitation cinema is stuff like Maniac. If you've seen, even if you've seen the remake with Elijah Wood or the original, Maniac is exploitation. So it takes the subject matter in it. You get boobs, you get blood, basically. It's exploitation. It's very close to Grindhouse. It's made on a shoestring, and that's what you get. So it had one showing a night, every night at midnight at this one theatre for 2.5 years. yet it still didn't make enough money for it to even class as a box office. So there is no theatrical release for Basket Case in the sense of there is no box office amount that it made because it was once a night, every night for 2.5 years.
That is crazy.
So yeah, that was insane when I read that bit. I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
It feel like we need to tell people about this film.
Nah.
So the opening scene is we don't know this yet, but the guy is Dr. Julius Lifflander. And we know he's Lifflander because he picks the phone up and says he's Lifflander. But we don't know he's a doctor. We don't know who this guy is. He's just being mysteriously chased around his house by we don't know what.
No.
And then he gets
visible things and banging, basically.
It's the acting in this movie is top-notch GCSE drama at its finest.
100% agree with that.
Yeah. GCSE drama. And it's the no, don't do it. No.
Over there. Look, there is something over there. Oh
my gosh. And then he gets killed.
Well, if you could call it that, because I don't know what happened, right? The second Doctor, well, he's very much dead. But this one, he just kept grabbing him by the mouth, and then there was a bit of blood spurt everywhere. And I was like,
was he pulling his head forward? Because I felt like, if I remember rightly, something was, I don't think you see anything touching his mouth, but he just kept pulling his head forward and then pulling it back. And
I don't think, did we see the hand at that point, or was that with the second Doctor? This is the bit where it sort of blurs for me because
I'm too busy laughing at the how hysterically he's acting.
The sheer ridiculousness.
You are a fully grown man. Act like it. Nah, he went on ridiculous. He was screaming, he was shouting, and then he got killed.
Yes.
And then you literally move straight away into New York City at its finest. Grimy, gritty, dirty.
Times Square, yeah.
A man trying to sell you everything.
He's got it.
Yeah. It's the fact that he's going, I've got acid, I've got this, I've got that, I've got these kind of drugs. And the fact that when he starts listing off drugs, that's when he goes, what's your problem, man? I'm like, you just give him your problem.
He's not interested, clearly. I'm sure he would have taken you up on one of your many offers.
Well, why isn't nobody going, fuck's in your basket?
Well, the guy did when he went to check in this random hotel on Times Square. Didn't he? He was like, what's in the basket? He went, clothes. And that's what we're all led to believe until you see him throwing hamburgers in there. And I'm like, clothes in there? There's no clothes in there.
Oh my gosh. And the TMU version of Bob Hoskins at the front desk. Oh my gosh. He was probably one of my favorites on screen, if I'm going to be honest. The level of acting of that man was amazing.
The grumpy hotel.
Get in your rooms.
He was it's the braces of the best. Always
it's his only line. It's his only line. Get in your rooms. Like, who are you? This is not a detention center. It's a motel.
I think detention center would have been slightly nicer than that hotel. $20 a night. I'm like, ooh.
Hey, I mean, those people actually physically living there.
Yeah, it's
there was
as
an
we
old
get
lady.
The exposition of the old when he's going up the stairs and the strange other lady with a different wig on is saying to him, oh, there was an old lady and she kept saying how rich she was and we didn't believe her, and then one day she came down here draped in her finery and her fur coat and she just paid and left, and then she walked off, and I was like, thanks.
Bye, pet.
I really don't know why you needed to tell us that. Because I frankly couldn't give a flying fig who was in there before him. It really makes no difference.
No, but this is where he gets the first glimpse of the amazing Casey. This is Beverly Bonner.
Yeah.
Beverly has been in every single Basket Case movie. Beverly is your grindhouse actress. She is it's not B movies. You couldn't even class what she did as B movies, but that woman made a career out of doing this style of movie, and she is fucking phenomenal. I love her in this. She sadly passed away in 2022.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just loved her, like the way she walked in, and she's like, when she walks into his room, and she's like, and you can see she's taking everything in, and she's looking at everything, and she's like, there's definitely something up with him, so I'm going to leave now. But she still tries to play it out like everything's cool, everything's fine, and in her head she's going, "Oh, what the fuck is that? This is something." But this is something.
Casey is your friendly neighborhood sex worker.
Yes.
And she's entering her room with a gentleman friend who cannot stop looking at her behind.
She has a cracking behind, so I don't.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. He paid her for the privilege. I got it for free because I watched it.
Exactly. And this is where you get to see Duane feeding his basket.
That's not a euphemism. That's actually what happens.
Literally, he goes in and he just it's the noise.
Oh, it's vile, isn't it? Like if you have misophonia or misophonia, however you say it, this is not a film for you. I want to say this film it does something in an auditory way that the average horror film doesn't do. And I'm not talking about we've talked about it with a couple of films we've watched before where they set a tone, there's a tone to it, or there's a rhythm or the music or something. No, this is an unbearable noise that is repeated in one iteration or another all the way through it. And even like the eating noises, what they must do, and I've come to the conclusion when I was trying to watch this, they turn it up.
I have to. All
these scenes, the dialogue is relatively at one sort of decibel level. The minute he starts eating and the minute it starts making noises, it's like they've turned it up to 11. It's insanely loud. And if it's there to shock you, I understand the value. But it's not nice hearing something like eating.
Oh, it's even worse. It's even worse than that. Like, Dan's done you a favor. That was honestly, it's even worse. It's
horrid.
It is. It's absolutely horrid. And that's just it. That's just not that's the first of the noises. This movie is a very noisy movie, but the soundtrack to it is something out of a 70s porno. That's the only way. It's when he walks through the hotel room and it's a bow, and there's all these bows going on. And it's just him and his basket.
Boom chicka wow wow.
Yeah,
boom chicka wow wow.
It's just him and his basket. Which he then takes with him to a doctor's appointment. Why is nobody questioning the basket?
Why do you have a laundry basket with you at the cinema? Why do you have a laundry basket with you when you're going to the doctor's office? This is where we get introduced into his love, love interest. I don't really know, because she just screams the whole time as well, really, to be honest with you. I mean, there's not much.
Sharon knows her. Sharon knows who she is, though, because she wanted to go out on a date with him, and she got it. She wasn't shy, and she just met him. She wasn't shy to ask.
Well, yeah, I mean, she thought he was the typewriter guy that come and fix the typewriter, didn't she, to be honest? But
I mean, the basket could have had a typewriter in it, I guess.
It's not your usual typewriter holding vessel, but I mean, each to their own. It might have been his toolbox.
You do. You might not have been able to actually afford a toolbox and just carried a wicker basket around with him. But this trip to the doctors is the kind of the key point of the whole movie. And you don't really get to see the conversation, but what you do get to see is Duane showing the doctor his war wound,
which is all down this side, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
He takes off his shirt, he sits down in the grottiest.
It's grim.
The grottiest. I mean, we're talking New York 1982. I get that. Things aren't going to be sparkling, but they're going to be a little bit more sanitary than they were there. You would have got some form of hepatitis just sitting on that bed.
But just walking in the place.
You breathe that in.
You're getting A, B, C. You're getting a lot as you walk through that building.
Bit of cholera, bit of typhoid, washed to the just add it in, you know.
Just chuck it all in. For our younger viewers, New York was not how New York is today. It's taken a lot of hard work, a lot of time to get New York to the shiny glitz and big lights that you see today.
Yeah.
It used to be a shithole.
Correct.
An absolute dank. If you want to watch the purest form of New York, the best movie in its real life is it's a documentary, is that will give you a sense of New York, is Paris is Burning.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, 100%. 100%, because you get to see it's not all big lights, bright city kind of stuff. It is
Broadway. It's not really there.
It's actually like I've been to Times Square where he does this walkthrough bit, and now there's not all sex shops, it's not all that. You've got like Apple, and they have to pay millions to be there a year, you know, in Times Square now, the shop. They've got a Sephora. Do you know what I mean? It's like those, and then
it took a lot of hard work.
It did.
And a lot of time, and New York cleaned its act up, but Paris is Burning is the purest form of what New York City was like in the 80s. Also, it's a fucking phenomenal documentary about the drag ball scene. If you're a RuPaul Drag Race fan, this documentary right here is the reason you have that show.
Yes, because reading is what?
It's fundamental.
So yeah, I mean, it's she's watching. She is.
She's right there. But yeah, it was a fucking shithole. There's no way to sugarcoat it, and I'm very sorry for New Yorkers because your city, it's beautiful. Is it a city?
It's a city. Well, you've got New York City, and then you've got New York State, and then you've got
Geography was not my strongest suit.
New York City is pretty much where this is filmed. You've got Manhattan and all around there, and New York is way bigger than anyone actually realizes. It cost us a lot of money to get around New York when we went, and we were only there for 5 days, and it was shocking how far apart everything is.
I've turned down 2 trips to New York, and why I will never understand. My favorite movie of all time is centered around New York. The New York City Library is a part of that movie.
Staying it with my bikes.
Get fucked. And the firehouse is there. Do you know?
I saw that with firehouse.
But this is like, why would I do it? I don't know. Maybe because I was an angry teenager.
Are we talking about this movie? I hope we're talking about
that movie. Of course, that movie. It's
that movie there.
It's my everything. And yeah, I don't understand why I did it. I had 2 opportunities to go. I mean, I still have an opportunity now. I'm 40-odd-year-old. I can go and do what I want, but I have to pay for it.
Yeah, no, plan it well in advance. If anybody wants to go, I would plan it well in advance. And with the firehouse, don't do what I did. I didn't know you could knock on the door, go in and like buy patches and, you know, help, like give money to the fire brigade and stuff like that. I didn't know you could do that at the time. So we traveled, it was -18 2 days before we got there, because we went in February, and then it was -8 for the whole time we were there. We went, I will say, it was absolutely beautiful. We went to where they had the hotel with Home Alone 2, where he runs out into the park. We were up by we actually stayed in above Grand Central Station. There's a hotel, and we stayed in that one. Nice. So you got all your food at Grand Central, and then you went out and you could walk around. But the library's just at the top of the road off to one side. And if you go the other way, you go to Central Park. And we went to the Natural History Museum where Ross works. And we went to the East Village, and we did quite a lot of stuff. We went to Queens. We went to everybody in Queens does talk like, I'm walking here. They've all got
really?
That proper, like the cabbie wouldn't stop talking all the way there, and everything was like, I'm walking here. You know, it was like very much like you would think someone from New York sounds like, you know.
Yeah, you stereotypical New Yorker, like or how you hear it in your head.
How
He was
movies
actually
portray
doing it.
them.
Yeah, that's right. I've always wanted to go to Cat's Diner. My mum and dad have been several times. My sister said it's now to write home to. I was like, I don't care. I just want to go. My sister went for her 21st birthday. Her 16th birthday and her 21st birthday. And on her 16th birthday, my mum and dad took her to see Phantom of the Opera on Broadway, right in the front row.
See, if I go back now, I want to see Beetlejuice the movie, the musical, because
The
it's on
musical.
Broadway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice the musical's on Broadway, and then they had a few more things that were on Broadway, and I was quite intrigued to go and watch because I've seen Back to the Future here, and the cast from here have gone over to Broadway to do it. The original cast. I'm part of me is like, oh, I'd like to go and watch it on Broadway now because Roger Bart, who plays Doc, everybody will know from Hostel. He was in Hostel
Yes.
2 or 3. I can't remember which one it was. The one
I can
with
picture him.
Heather, is it Mazzarato, who played Randy's sister? That one. No, it wasn't that one, was it? Yes, it was. It was the one where Lucifer, she gets his nuts cut off bitten off by a dog. Roger Bart's nuts cut off, but yeah, that bit. Yeah, and he is absolutely fantastic. The man is, I can't rate him enough for how what an amazing show they wrote. I'm not a big musicals person. I like what I like.
Yeah, I like musicals, but it's like my quiet taste.
Yeah, I'm not one to be into new stuff like Waitress or any of that sort of stuff. It takes Hamilton, not my.
Oh well.
No, see, I'm someone who, if I've grown up with it, I love it. Like, obviously, there's the original Grease stage show. There's, I took my sister to see the Sister Act musical, Dirty Dancing musicals. We've done a lot over the years. I took Rob to see his first ever musical, and it was Young Frankenstein.
Did they do the whole putting on the Ritz?
Yeah, it was Ross Noble played Igor, which was Chef's Kiss.
Amazing.
And, Dorian from Birds of a Feather was.
Oh my God, Leslie Joseph. That is brilliant.
It was absolutely brilliant. That was one of like the best ones I've seen. But
well, I actually got an early birthday present the other day. It's a very early birthday present. It's actually probably be classed as a birthday present for next year, because on the 11th of July next year, I am going to see Hamilton.
See, that's the thing. If that's your cup of tea, I'm not taking that away from anyone. It's just I am a creature of habit. I have musicals I love, but I'm a soundtrack queen over musicals. So if they've made a movie of it,
yeah,
I will have the OST and then I will have the movie OST as well.
No, I get that. No, Hamilton came through because if you remember through lockdown, everyone was doing something on YouTube, and John Swazinski was doing his little show, and he was talking to a Hamilton fan who was meant to have gone to see the show. Because of lockdown, it got cancelled. He got the whole crew of Hamilton to come on and sing the opening number, and it was magical. And that was the first time I ever heard a song from Hamilton. And then it announced when Disney Plus was coming out, that was going to be one of the premieres. So on a Saturday night during lockdown, when Disney Plus came on, me and my family at 7 o'clock would pick a movie and we would all watch it together, and we would commentate in our WhatsApp chat and stuff like that. And then the third week of that, Hamilton came out, and I made my whole entire family watch it. So we've all fallen in love with it because of Disney Plus putting it on. And my dad texted us the other day and said, "You are going to be in the room where it happens." And I lost my shit. I'm actually going to a show on this weekend. I'm going to see Six. The Henry VIII, the wives one.
Oh no, I see. I'm not.
I don't know. I have never heard any of the songs.
Oh, is that the singing dancing one? I think. Yes, I think I know which one you mean now. Actually, because the lovely Carol from they're like they do. She sells freeze dried sweets at the shows, and her and her husband Neil are the most loveliest couple in the universe. But niece, I think, is in it. She plays one of the
Henry
wives.
VIII's wives, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all singing, all dancing. I know which one it is. Yes,
I think it's a very short play.
Yeah.
It's not on for the longest of times. But my best friend is obsessed with it, and she went, "Would you come with us?" And she was like, "Coincidentally, it falls just near your birthday, so we." And I was like, "Yes, I will. I will come." I haven't listened to any of the soundtrack yet, but I said I would go. We went on a right tangent. We went on a musical tangent there.
It was New York. I blame New York.
New York, New York.
It's a hell of a town.
Well, I think what we were trying to do subconsciously is we've just shit on it by telling them the real version of New York when they say, but really, it's all lovely now.
It's so nice.
Go visit.
The one thing I will say is don't get really, really drunk in the Hard Rock and then go and spend $25 on mint M&Ms. Yeah. Lots of cocktails. Well, put it this way, I was eating them for about 2 months after because I don't really like chocolate. So
oh Christ. I've not done that because I've never been in New York, but what I have done is getting absolutely hammered in Barcelona. And I mean hammered to the point where I was ordering steak. I was vegetarian, and absolutely inhaling it. I was vegetarian for a very long time before I turned vegan, and I absolutely inhaled it. I ordered everyone's. I was almost ordering the people next to us to come and join us, to come and have steak with us. Yeah, I was absolutely, it's the drunkest I probably have ever been in my life. And then the next day I had to go and walk around at 8 o'clock in the morning at the Gaudi buildings. Have you ever seen Gaudi's work?
No.
It's bumpy.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was horrid.
No, I would have passed. I would have stayed in bed. I was like, oh, fuck it.
we were walking down the street of the main street of Barcelona. I think it's called the Shambles or the Rambles or something like that. And we're walking down there. My dad wanted to go to an Irish bar because we were there for my mum's birthday, and he wanted to go to an Irish bar. And my sister and me, who were absolutely not even with this planet anymore, went up to a guy and said, who was standing clearly promoting a bar. And we went, Irish bar, and he just went, that one. And it wasn't. It was an absolute shithole of a place. The toilets almost sobered me up. If it wasn't for the fact they were doing incredibly cheap and very big cocktails, we would never have stayed there.
Did you accidentally go to Paddy's pub?
Oh, God. What I found hilarious though is because the smoking ban, I smoked at the time, and the smoking ban had been in Barcelona for about a year. However, the Irish bars refused to because in their mind, their land was in Ireland. And in Ireland, they hadn't introduced the smoking ban. So I got to sit in a pub with a pint and have a cigarette. I mean, it's nothing. It's Barcelona. It was red hot outside. I could just go and stand outside.
Yeah, that seems like an alien concept now, doesn't it? Sitting and drinking and smoking at the same time.
Even smoking is an alien concept to us now. I've been quit for so long, I just can't even imagine. And the smell.
I've never done it, but all my friends have always smoked. So I've always gone with my friends if they wanted to go outside, or I've been the table keeper. So because I've never smoked, so it's always been one of those things. But working in a bar, I was always very, very thankful when the smoking ban came in because it didn't smell as horrific.
Yeah. After I quit and I got on a bus for the first time and I could smell it on someone, I was like, oh, nah. Did I smell like that?
Yes, no. You did.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, BasketCase.
Did you know this movie wasn't released on VHS until 1995?
I don't think I come across that. No, that's a long time.
Yeah, the film was released on January 5th, 1995 on VHS by Anchor Bay Entertainment. It was then re-released on April the 28th, 1998 on DVD by Image Entertainment. And then it was re-released on Blu-ray on September 29th, 2011 by Image Entertainment. So, and now obviously in 2017, it's had the 4K HD.
Oh, it's been absolutely cleaned right up, hasn't it?
But that's the thing. It was remastered by Arrow Videos. Is it Arrow? But so. It was only remastered because it was being entered into the Museum of Modern Art. So they had to. And
that's the copy I watched. Yeah. So when you watch it on YouTube, that's what comes up. This is a copy from the the arty place. It's a museum, and yeah, that's the warnings you get at the beginning, and then the movie starts.
Yeah, he basically said he thought it was a joke when he heard it was being entered into the Museum of Modern Art to be remastered. He was like, yeah, and then it got re-released because he sold the rights. He doesn't own the rights anymore, Frank.
The thing is, though, would you be bothered? Like,
he's not. He does not care. No.
But in your mind, you've made a almost shitty. And I don't want to shit all over this film because it's not the greatest, it's not the worst, but there is some quite clever things that have come out of it.
It has a place.
It does have, yes, it does. It does have a place. I've just read how they describe Belial's hands and how he kills people. It's a claw. It's a claw. The claw.
Oh.
It's a fucking massive claw then.
His
hands were bigger than him.
I mean, his hands were very, very he was very, very dexterous for a tumor.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't even chew it.
It's what do they call? Oh, that's what they call them. I know this because I've been watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy. I'm now on season 15.
Oh, good God.
They call it a teratoma. And a teratoma is a tumor that has teeth, hair, some organs and eyes, but isn't a functioning, breathing, thinking entity.
Doesn't Dwight kill his in the womb?
Oh, he did. Yeah, he ate his brother or his sister in the womb. Yeah. Which I'm really upset about. We won't talk about Rainn Wilson. He cancelled Manchester, and now I want to stab him with a pen. But he technically may have rebooked for another show. But you know, anybody who got their tickets cancelled will know that he's rebooked, so it's not a secret. But hopefully he'll be at Liverpool next year. So I might get my signature, and I might get to meet Dwight one day. But I'm hoping that they get other Office guys at that one.
Yeah, I watched the what's his name? What is wrong with my brain today? I cannot think of names. Weird Al. We watched the Weird Al movie on Friday.
So weird, isn't it?
It is fucking genius.
It's
like
you have to understand Weird Al to be able to watch it, though. It's not a biography by any stretch of the imagination.
It's good. I'm glad he's. I love it. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But what I found hilarious was when I was watching it, I was reading a little bit about him at the same time. And you know how his parents like hated the fact that he played the accordion. He was a weird child in this. I said, complete opposite. His parents were so supportive. The scene with the guy coming in to sell him the accordion, that really happened. That's how he got it. But his dad bought him it willingly.
Yeah.
Because they thought, with him being a weird kid, he should have a weird instrument. He shouldn't be. He should be able to express his weirdness, and the accordion was perfect for him. Oh my God, I loved it. But did you read about his parents?
No, I know. All I know is that I watched the film. I mean, I've known of Weird Al back for UHF when he made the movies when I was a kid, and he's always done parodies since I can remember. I mean, he did Eat It, and
I think Eat It was the first time when I was a kid. It was singing. It was the first thing, like my first thing with Weird Al. And
he's always been on my. It was the parody movie he made. I think it was UHF where he did the Rambo spin-off and all that sort of stuff. So I've always known of him, and like I didn't realize he was going until over lockdown when he did the Happy Because I'm Happy.
Yeah,
and he had everybody in the video for that. He did aluminum foil. And and I realized that he was still going, so I started looking into his other stuff, and the guy's a freaking genius.
He's a genius.
Don't give credit at all. And Daniel Radcliffe, I tell you what,
that's not him singing though.
No,
that was Weird Al singing. I was trying to give him credit.
He did Weird Al well. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered if he wasn't even doing Weird Al.
No.
But he did it really well. And I will say Rainn Wilson as Dr. Demento.
He looks exactly like him.
That scene at the swimming pool where you had Pee Wee Herman and Elvira and Divine.
And that's Nina West?
Yeah. When I found that out afterwards, I was like, I see that now, but at the time I didn't. And I was like, and you're going through and he's going, oh, this is it was is it David Dalmatian? I can never say his surname. I'm sorry.
No, yes, he played one of the Beatles. Yes,
He played
John Lennon.
John
Deacon
Deacon from
Queen.
Queen, and it was just the way that him and Wolfman Jack.
I lost my shit. I knew exactly who that was when he came on. I was like, oh my god, it's Wolfman Jack. I did something about him.
What movie? He was in Wolfman Jack.
The Blob.
That was it. I knew he'd been in one of our films that we'd watched, and I was like, that actually isn't a bad, like, they've not done bad with that one.
Anyway. It was so good. But just to bring it into a very morbid place, his parents both died in a house fire. Oof. Carbon monoxide poisoning.
Hey, no, I did not know that.
Yeah. It's such a great film. Sorry, I just had to bring
he didn't have any Bologna after that.
Oh, I love the fact that he wrote Beat It.
Yeah.
And Michael Jackson parodied him.
And then he went out with Madonna.
Who then become
like some sort of weird Nazi, like, I don't know what she was, to be fair.
Head of the mafia, and
she was like Yoko Ono. They played her out as, didn't they?
I love the fact that at the end it was like, and Weird Al died at the award ceremony in 1980.
That's where I was like, maybe this isn't true.
When we finally started to click how exaggerated this was, is when we started to fall in love with it. And then we started listening to his back catalogue, and White and Nerdy obviously got played a million times because that song is fucking White genius.
Nerdy, gotta get me White and Nerdy. Did you know the uncut version, which is the version that you see, the master version of BasketCase that we watched, the master, the one that Arrow had remastered. In the UK, it wasn't shown to us until 1999. That version that we watched today, because the censor board, obviously our lovely rating censor people went, nah. There's too much of gore and gross, and
there is.
You can see from the second Doctor kill. I'll give it that from that one.
Well, that's where we landed. That's where we ended up. Was the second Doctor kill, but that's not before he has made that phone call to the Wish version of Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, I'm eating my dinner. I was like, okay, love, calm down.
I like you when you're drunk.
Yeah, I was like,
She said some choice things at that table, mind.
I don't think I'd like to be in the same room as you, lady.
She's fucking terrifying. But there's a conversation between Doctor Number 2 and Wish Sigourney Weaver, who it's coming clear that the conversation that Duane had with this doctor that's put the shits up him is that he is pissed.
Yeah.
He wants revenge for the people who took... So there's two forms of revenge in this movie. Yeah. There's Belial's revenge on the people who separated him from his brother.
Yeah.
And then there's Duane's revenge for the people who have discriminated against his brother.
Yeah. Which, to be honest with you, the second one doesn't really pick up much. You only tend to sort of get the first one. You only tend to get Belial's revenge, really, unless you're really reading into it and picking up, like, you know, like all the time nuances. But when I read an interview that Frank did, and he said it's really not that deep. This movie doesn't have any kind of underlying things. So people say, oh, I think this is a movie about separation anxiety and how it can, how you know, a man lives with himself after part of him has been cut away. And he's like, dude, it's not deep. It was just a monster in a basket.
Yeah.
And I had to think of a way of getting it there. And that was it.
That's exactly how I took this movie. However, there are people who have made it more than what it actually is. An author called John Townsend, I'm not going to read what he said. He wrote that the sexual desires of Belial in BasketCase provide the film with a transgressive undercurrent, adding that Belial can be seen as the the dark
id,
side,
yeah, yeah.
the dark side within us all. Duane is the internal misfit who carries his monster, his darkness, around in a basket, afraid to let it out of fear of transgression.
No, he had his
No.
brother removed, but he kept his brother alive when technically his brother shouldn't have been. And then they made a vow between them to get them put back together. And this is what that doctor wouldn't do,
Yeah,
apparently.
it's put them back
This
together.
second doctor wouldn't sew Belial back
What-
on Wayne.
What we should have also mentioned is that they don't actually physically talk to each other. They
No.
do it in their minds.
Yes. Apparently
So
twinning. They're twinning.
they're twinning. Someone else has drawn another thing out of this movie. I'm going to use my language very carefully here. BasketCase examines the topic of schmishmotion,
All right.
highlights a flashback scene that depicts Beguile indisputable alive, being discarded in a trash bag. Is a deformed monster such as Belial actually worth saving?
No.
Should he have been mercifully terminated rather than forced to live as he is, a thing more than a man? BasketCase hedges its bets and appears to come down on either side of the pro-life, pro-choice equation. On the one hand, Belial is a murderous, nasty little bugger. On the other, he's clearly capable of expressing love.
Let's just rewind. He was part of another baby. He was growing on a baby. The termination would have been for both twins. It wouldn't have just been to terminate Belial. In 1982, fetal surgery is not a thing. You wouldn't, the choices would be to get rid or adopt or have the baby. That was and obviously back then abortions were very still in 1982. They were a little bit. There were still complications and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Things weren't being done as well as they are now. Let's put it that way. So, I mean,
yeah,
you can't say it was a matter of like an allegory for pro-life, pro-choice.
You are pulling at fucking strings. Anyone who tries to look at a deeper meaning of this movie does not get the intention of the director and what he wanted from it.
It's a monster movie.
It's a monster movie.
That's all he wanted, a monster. And he had to figure out, he had his monster and he had his basket. And that's where he started. There was Duane wasn't even a thing, but he just needed to figure out a way for a main character to have a reason to be carrying the basket. So Duane was secondary. So
he's not the main star.
No, and people might think that Duane's the main star because Duane's the one that carries him around everywhere. But no, the whole idea came from a monster in a basket. So the relationship to Duane was secondary. The fact that he was part of a twin that he was possibly a teratoma or a twin that didn't survive, and Duane kept him alive all these years. For all we know, his parents didn't even know about Duane keeping it alive.
No.
There's no backstory.
There's no backstory. No, you get to know about his aunt, who was the only one who understood them both. Yeah. But not a great deal about his parents. Yeah. No, because again, this movie is not that deep.
Exactly.
Not as deep as what these people have been writing. So yeah, once we figure out that there's that they want to be joined back together, and this doctor won't do it, and then this doctor gets on the phone with another doctor who is the Wish version of Sigourney Weaver, then it comes in. It's starting to the picture's starting to come together that these three doctors, and I think you see this in a flashback, were part of the separation process.
Yeah.
Which was done pretty brutally. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, it wasn't great. I mean, the 70s, 80s of it all, but
fucking hacks. They literally got a bone saw, not even a bone saw. Remember them saws you used to get in your DT class?
Yeah,
looked like one of them.
Yeah, was like a little hacksaw.
And that was not fucking sterilized. I'm telling you now.
But so the whole premise of this movie is these two taking revenge on all the people that chose to separate them. So regardless of what reasons each of them had, it's just a revenge monster movie thing.
It is. It is.
This kill was probably my favorite because it was the most
oh no, mine's
unexpected.
The other doctor. Mine's the woman doctor.
Yeah.
I
liked this
brutal.
one because it was unexpected. Judging by
Yeah.
the first kill you'd seen, it was quite mild, and I just thought, oh, this is where we are. This is the kind of murder you get. But this second murder was very much similar at the beginning, where the head was being pulled down by a hand, and you thought to yourself, then all of a sudden you see these two hands go straight into the stomach, and then it cuts to something else. I can't remember. It either cuts or it fades out, and then it fades back in. But you just have a pair of legs and all the guts hanging out, and then you see the top.
Yeah, it goes in and then out. That's right. Yeah, because they're separated, and you're like, that was some good makeup rework for the amount of money that they had.
Yeah,
that was some good makeup.
That did. I mean, you know, for well, with butchers, pigs, offal, it's something along those lines.
Yeah,
I couldn't find anything to find out specifically.
There's
about
nothing.
What they used.
There's nothing in relation to whoever did makeup or anything. Who created Lyle? Oh, you know.
Yeah, there's two guys that were responsible for the special effects, makeup, and puppetry. Not so much puppetry, but the not the stop go. This is just the guys who made, molded, and did that side of it. But John Caglione Jr. He was a protege of Dick Smith.
Oh, it was Dick Smith's heavenly birthday the other day.
Yeah, he was a protege of Dick Smith, as we all know, Tom Savini. A lot of guys studied under Dick Smith. He is.
We will do an episode on Dick Smith. He is the daddy.
But John Caglione Jr. is also a BAFTA nominated and Oscar-winning special effects artist. He worked on Dick Tracy, which with Al Pacino and yeah, that was a hell of an FX movie with all the prosthetic work that was done during
Unreal.
And then he also worked on The Dark Knight. His list is huge. It's absolutely obscene the amount of movies he's worked on. But the one that I was more impressed with is a guy called Kevin Haney. It's either Haney or Haney. He has got a rap sheet bigger than I am. I'm just going to pick a few and tell you a few of the films he worked on. This was one of his first films, bear in mind, BasketCase. He worked on Death Becomes Her, Addams Family Values, the new D&D movie Honor Amongst Thieves.
Brilliant movie.
About 50% of the Marvel movies he worked on. And this is my favorite one. He was Bette Midler's makeup special effects artist on Hocus Pocus.
I am either having a glitch in the Matrix or I have read this before, but I am so I know this person, especially it's when you said Death Becomes Her.
Yeah, Kevin Haney, his name is.
How do you spell his surname?
Haney.
Haney. I would say Haney.
Yeah, I sorry for bastardizing your name, mate, but we don't really get the spellings out, so you just have to guess. So
no, the minute you said Death Becomes Her, I feel like I know this person.
But those two, he admits in his history, when you go and look, Kevin lists BasketCase as being his second movie. I don't know what his first one was. I didn't pay attention, but it wasn't anything big. However, John Caglione Jr. won't even list this movie on his database.
Why? The most charming part about this movie is the actual monster itself. It's so creative. It's so different. What really tickles me is when Belial is in the basket, it's just Belial. Like if there's no movement, the eyes are very much your googly eyes stucky on kind. Do you know what I mean? They're painted on.
It is actually Duane's face. They took a mold of his face.
Well, they had to make him look similar.
Yeah, but they sort of squished it up and made it all weird. So there is a few scenes where you see him quite close up on his face, and it is Duane with the prosthetic on over his shoulder.
That's the end. Well, that's the end scene. That's what tickled us. So you're so used to seeing these like painted on eyes, like when the stop motions do.
We'll get there in a minute to that.
Stop motion is taking place, but on one scene, and it's right at the end where Belial is like in the face of someone. You see the eyes. You see proper eyes, and it's like. It's so unsettling. It's so I literally recoiled back on my what the fuck is that?
Yeah. It's they made and molded this, but the problem was with the heat in New York, which people don't realize. New York is boiling. I mean, you might see this, like I might have said, like you heard me say it was -18.
Yeah.
No, stuff like that. Yeah, that's fine. But in the summer when they shot this, it was hell on hot.
Yeah.
So that's why the prosthetic didn't sit well. And as you said, it shrunk, and it was got to the point where it could only be puppeteered by a child. Because no one else could fit in it. So
they could make another one.
They didn't have the budget, because there was that rumor, and I don't know if you read that. There's a scene at the beginning where he's checking into the hotel, and you see Duane pull out a massive wad of notes, and he starts counting.
That's the budget.
That was the budget. That's all they had.
Oh yes, I did. I read that. Yes, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. So, like I said, from what I could find out, they literally had a budget of about $6,000 in 1982, which is about 32 grand this now, and that is less than a student film. It's less than an indie movie. I mean, you're not getting much bang for your buck, but I think they did very well for what they had.
40 years later, we're still talking about this movie. They did something.
Yeah,
they definitely did something. So Doctor Number 2 is dead. This is where he then goes. We see the flashback scene explaining the separation, the relationship with their auntie, who they stayed with until I think, did Belial not kill their father? And the auntie just brushed it off as an accident, and it will just forget about it, kind of thing.
So
yeah,
like I say, it kind of sweeps past these things like it's nothing. Like, and you don't even, you sort of fall into the trap.
Yeah, he did. They both murdered their father.
Right, yeah. Okay.
They both murdered their father, and it was ruled as an accident because the auntie backed them up. She was their enabler, basically. She was the one who was saying that they needed to be together, and kind of like really cementing this idea that what these doctors have done is the worst thing possible.
Yeah.
Then she dies, and that's when they decide, right, okay, plan. We need to get into action and kill doctors. But Duane has gone on a date with his lady friend.
Yep.
And he gets a bit frisky with his lady friend.
Practically eats her face. Yeah.
Wow, honestly, that kissing, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, were they just trying to suck each other?
I really don't know what was actually happening. I've got to be honest. When I saw it, I was like, I don't know whether you told them to go all in, or there was something a bit more between them, or I don't know, but it was unpleasant to be a part of.
just kept, like, and I just kept thinking, who's going in which one's mouth first? Like, I don't know, because bloody hell. But Belial has a very hard time with this.
Yes, this is where the separation anxiety does come in. So I kind of all the angles, I kind of get that to a degree, because Duane does want to live his own life now. He's met this girl, but he doesn't know how to at the same time. So he still feels very torn between his brother and this woman.
Oh, there's a lot of guilt there.
Yeah. And I think that's what it is. And he thought to himself, right, this one time I'll go and do something for me. And he was being selfish, rightly so, because, you know, he spends his life carrying his brother around in a basket. But you know, he wanted to go off and do this date for himself.
Yeah.
And Belial was not happy.
No, he wasn't. Before that happens, though, he actually sneaks in the bedroom. This is Belial, by the way. He actually sneaks in the bedroom of Casey and scares the absolute living shit out of her. This was what tickles me about movies, is so Casey she's a very glamorous lady. For a lady of the night, she looked very well put together. And then she wears this god-awful fucking t-shirt 90 and takes her underwear off and puts it in it just on the floor. She jumps into bed, and within seconds, she's out like a count. Now, I didn't think that was a possible thing to do. I'm a good sleeper. But to instantly jump into bed and go to sleep, I wouldn't have believed it if it wasn't for the last trip that I had with my mother in Paris. Because I watched that woman go, can you set an alarm for 20 minutes, please? And I'm going to have a snooze. 20. So I did, and instantly out. She is out. She is dead to the world. She cannot hear anything that we are saying. And then in 20 minutes later, oh, she's up. And she did that on a nighttime when we went to bed, and she did that on a morning. And I thought I was a good sleeper. Like, I can sleep on a washing line. I obviously get it from her. But yeah,
Yeah,
Casey is instantly out. To the point where she doesn't feel
a
grubby
grubby-handed
handed Belial next
blob.
to her.
Yeah.
Until she does. Until she does.
Until she dies of a heart attack.
And then she screams the house down, but Belial gets out. Now, this is where it's almost slapstick comedy how everyone comes out of the building, out of their rooms, into the hallway for the landlord to come up, and then all of them just scatter off. There's something very comedic about the whole hallway scenes, because everyone, if there's a commotion, they're all out there.
And that's the crew. That's all the crew.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why the acting skills in those bits are a little bit. Obviously, there's one or two that are obviously actors, like the female neighbours and things like that.
Yeah.
But the majority of those men in the hallway scenes are sound engineers, lighting engineers, boom operators, cameramen. They were just like like you say, they had about 15 roles per person when they would take on. So
well, so Belial's had his little meltdown after he scared Casey over the fact that his brother's getting his end away, which I don't think he does, because he then gets a feeling as well.
Yeah, is this the stop go animation bit, or is that next?
I think that's next. It's in a room where he's basically the stop animation part is where Belial's in a bedroom where he's moving about, where you can see him wandering about.
Yeah.
And how he gets about.
Destroys everything, doesn't he? He throws a chair against the wall. He pulls out the. I must admit, for something very, very small, he's got some power. He's got some biceps going on there. He threw a drawer out of a dresser up against the wall. He got all these papers out and was strewing them around the room and banging the whole. He lifted a whole bed and was banging it on the floor.
Well, the strength I understand when we get into the next kills and the ending, because all I kept thinking of was, you've got one hell of an arm. Your upper body strength must be fucking immense. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I don't think he needed spinach. No. He had to have been strong, but it would make sense that he was, because it's the only appendage, like the limbs he has is these hands. So he would have to have had some form of strength there.
Yeah.
And he was very strong. So yeah, it was a great way to show Belial moving in 2024 and 4K vision. It looks fucking hilarious.
It's like you're just missing the Benny Hill music, can't you, really? But pretty much. And then that would have just.
But in 1982, that would have been something, because stop motion was, it was a thing.
It made sense for the time, to be fair, to get the point across on the budget that they had. Yeah. But they still had to make a miniature of the room. They still had to make Belial a plasticine blob or whatever they ended up making it out of. And they still had to make many of him and make him be able to move and all that sort of thing. So that scene alone must have cost quite a lot, unless someone from a college or a uni do it for very little money, which I wouldn't put past him.
No, I wouldn't either.
Couldn't find anything about that section, anything about it. So
the next bit is where it gets a bit bleak,
a bit dark.
So Belial goes to find Sharon, who is the love interest of Duane, who didn't get his end away, by the way, because he had a meltdown. But Belial goes to Sharon's while she's asleep. Sharon's got no clothes on.
Sharon's boobs.
Wow. They were impressive.
I'm not knocking her. She had a nice,
she had a fantastic set, but you could see when he grabbed them, you could see the silicone. You could see the actual silicone bag. Like I don't know if it was the way she was lying, or this is breast implants in 1982 and they're not as what they're like today. You could clearly see the silicone in her boob as he got it.
Handling her appendages,
it gets worse.
Oh yeah,
it got so worse. The of this next scene, the cast and crew walked out.
Yeah.
This is how bad it is. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to say this with a straight face because the subject matter is not funny in the
It's
slightest.
not that she's laughing at. I want to be very, very clear.
Very, very clear.
How
it's put into
forward.
how it is put out on the screen. He grapes her. It's the only way I can say this.
There's a lot of essay involved in this little next situation.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of questions that need to how, and a lot of questions that need to...
He's rocking on her.
I know, but there's no reason for that. He's
got nothing.
There's nothing there. So
and she was already dead.
I
don't know.
This is where the whole
telepathy.
I can't say it.
Telepathy.
Telepathy.
This
is where the whole thing about them being telepaths come in. Because he obviously feels the same way about her that Duane does, because he's feeling what Duane's feeling about her. And obviously where Duane didn't get to, shall we say, complete the task, I feel like he took it upon himself to complete the task, but added his own little spin on it, I suppose, by
he killed her. When she wakes up and starts screaming, which she does, she wheels the place down
very loudly, which is entitled, but good God, don't have your volume up on that one.
No, don't turn. Honestly, watch it in subtitles, because the level of noise in this is like, my ears are sensitive at the best of times because I can barely hear out of one of them. It was even loud for me.
Yeah.
And this is where I figured he's a strong person, because he chokes her out with one hand.
Yeah.
And she is gone.
Yeah.
But Duane comes in.
He comes in just as he's
rocking on her. He's literally, I'm not even joking, people. He is lying on her, rocking.
And
I can't unsee that.
I think this is where people need to understand, this is why it's exploitation. This is why it's classed as an exploitation movie. This is why it's classed as a grindhouse movie. And this is why it was only on a midnight showing once a day.
Yeah.
It's not a mainstream movie. This might be to us today, as 2024 horror, connoisseurs. We love watching everything, and you have to respect where things come from. And so watching this, it would have been a hell of a shock to a 1982 person compared to a 2024 person. Watching it now, you'd laugh at it and go, and probably in 1982, that was the intention. But because it hadn't have been, something like that wasn't shown. Yeah. And didn't, there wasn't. It's not
something you have
to it. Like,
it's not something you normally would see.
Yeah.
So when you do.
Yeah. So I think it was probably intended to be funny rather than shocking, but it also had that double edge where he didn't care either way how you felt about it.
No, but the cast and crew did, because this is the scene where they walked out.
Yeah.
They hated the treatment of, not the actress, because obviously the actress was very well looked after.
Yeah.
It was the actual character itself.
Yeah.
They didn't like how it was being, they didn't like her ending, and they all literally got up and walked out. Duane didn't, though. Well, Duane did. Duane takes Belial with him in a rage.
Yeah, they have like this weird little fight, which is Belial just waving his arms around while Duane holds him like this. It's like,
just like flailing all over the place. There's a lot of flailing in this, by the way. A lot of but they have a full-blown argument as they are going back to the motel in front of everyone, by the way. But it's in the basket, so no one can see him yet. And obviously, nosy neighbours, they all come out in the hallway because commotion. And this is the first time they get to see Belial for the first time ever. And holy shit, if you thought there was screaming before, there's even more screaming going on in this scene. It's so fucking loud. But to it gets to the point where the two brothers are really at it. They're really fighting, and they fall out of the window.
Yeah.
This bit is geniusly done because
Yes.
it is actually done on the side of the building. He
Yeah,
is
and
literally held up on a rig.
I will say this is the most serious part, apart from
Yeah.
that last scene. I mean, depending on which eyes you look at it with,
Yeah.
if you're seeing it with the comedy eyes or if you're seeing it with the whatever, put that to aside. This bit is probably, I would say, the saddest part of the movie.
Yeah, it is.
Because they realize that neither of them can live without each other,
No.
but they don't want to die either. And then it's like he's trying to rescue his brother, and even though
he's killing him at the same time, he's not intentionally.
Yeah.
To me, it didn't feel like he intentionally needed, his hands wanted to be there. But for Belial, it's all he can do is to grab under his neck.
To hold on, and then he was like hanging him. He was technically hanging his brother. Because that's where he had him. So he's clinging onto the sign that's on the side of the hotel, Belial. Bear in mind, blob, 2 arms, right? Holding on to this thing. Best way to imagine it is like the poo emoji with hands.
Yeah, that's such a good way to describe it.
And he's holding on to the sign here, and he's holding on to his brother. Because bear in mind, they've fallen out of a 3-4 story window, right?
And they are hanging on by a thread.
And Belial is doing everything he can because he doesn't want his brother to die. And that's the sad bit when you realise at the end that this had to happen.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't go on the way they were. It wasn't.
No, nobody would be able to accept them.
No.
And
they'd have to move to the middle of nowhere.
They would literally have to live like them people did in X-Files.
Yeah.
Because it would be the only way they would have any peace. But that scene right there is Duane the actor hanging from the side of a building, just literally being held up by a crane. There's nothing. There's no green screen effect here. He's literally hanging from that building. The ladies of the night at the bottom of the street. Who the fuck taught them to act?
No one. They were given a tenner to go and stand there and go, ooh.
What is that? What is that? Oh God.
It's clearly a bloke hanging from
It's probably one of the most emotional parts of the movie.
Yeah, I will say that if you are someone that has feelings, unlike me, you would watch that and you would go, oh, that's really sad. Whereas I look at it and go, oh yeah, I get where they're going. That was pretty sad, but I'm not like, oh
no. This time I didn't. Normally I am the emotional wreck out of the two of us, but not this time. They do then end up falling to their, I mean, Duane's already died, but they do end up falling to their deaths, Belial, and the movie ends. Yeah, it happened. It's not the longest of films, no.
But for 1 hour and 91 minutes, though, I find it, I can't tell you, other than what we've said, really, there's not that much that happens.
There's not there's nothing that we missed out. There's one kill that we missed out.
There's a scene in the cinema where the guy nicks the basket when he falls asleep in the cinema because Belial kept him up all night. Yeah. And then he tries to steal what's in the basket, and then he gets his face ripped, like scratched by Belial, and runs out of the toilet screaming. There's that one scene, but that's neither here nor there. It doesn't add anything to the
no. There's another kill we missed with the guy who's, because Duane flaunts his money about, and one of the guys who was down at the reception area, he clocked it and broke into his room. He'd already attempted to try and break in before, but Casey stopped him.
Yeah, the keyhole.
The keyhole guy. But he does eventually get in, and Belial gets him. He gets him good. The role of Casey actually wasn't meant to be, it was meant to be something and nothing. She was literally just meant to walk in the room and, oh, he's got a sex worker living next door to him. But he absolutely loved Beverly's performance, just with that one wink, and she was in every single one of his movies. Every single one.
It was the fact that he was quoted as saying that if you put the sex worker in there, it showed the tone of the establishment. I was like, dude, you just had to open your eyes when he was walking up the stairs to know what kind of tone of an establishment you need to set. There didn't have to be a sex worker. You didn't have to put her in there, but You know, it worked. It
It
worked.
worked.
But
Oh, sorry, go on.
no, I was just gonna say, it didn't make sense for tonal purposes.
Yeah. She could have been anyone.
It was a shithole. So
It was an absolute dank. It was disgusting. The bar scene. Can we remember a bar scene?
I don't.
I don't.
I don't.
I don't remember. So apparently there was a bar scene,
Right.
and it was shot in an S&M club in Manhattan called the Hellfire Club. And the only thing that they had to do was the crew, because the workers said you can use it, but if you don't want the sex swing and the toys to be in shot, you have to move them. So, so yeah, it's in the flashback.
Well, the Hellfire Club is an actual club that actually existed in olden times, and if you ever go to High Wycombe, the Hellfire Caves are beneath. They're dug into the chalk caves there, and they go right down about 300 feet down into the earth, where they used to have their Hellfire Club meetings. And there's like they used to have orgies and banquets and all sorts of stuff. And Ben Franklin came over from America, and he was involved in the Hellfire Club here. That's where it was established here. So Stranger Things, sorry, rip off, mate. The Hellfire Club was from
it's not a
17, 1800s, whatever the fuck it was.
So when you're wearing your Hellfire t-shirt from Stranger Things,
Yep.
I mean, I actually have a couple of them. Remember where it came from?
Yeah.
It's not a cool D&D name.
You have to cross the River of Styx to get into there. Well, you used to. Now it doesn't exist, but the River of Styx used to separate the orgy, the main banquet hall, from the rest of not the main banquet. The main banquet hall's there. Then they had like a big room down the very, very end that was for the orgies, and then they had the banquet hall in the middle. If you want to know what that looks like, the Grim Life Collective have just done a video on the Hellfire. Also, Ghost Adventures.
No.
Zach Bagans. Some things you don't understand. Yeah, him. They do an episode there, and it's the funniest piece of dog shit I've ever watched in my life. So if you ever want to go and watch something just purely for shits and giggles, that's a good episode. But the Hellfire Caves are insane, and the hearts of the guys that died that were in the Hellfire Club are allegedly buried in put into these urns that are. There's a church at the very top of the hill, which the Hellfire Club's under, and they have this whole massive, great big sort of mausoleum bit that you can't get into, but you can see through.
Yeah.
And in the walls, there's all these urns, and apparently all the hearts of the members are inside these urns, dotted around. I mean, how true that is, I don't know. But
that's amazing. It's on my list. I've been trying to catch up with their adventures in England. I'll probably go and watch it after this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much they cover in it because I haven't actually watched it, but that's just stuff that I know. Hellfire Club only around the corner from me when I was growing up. So,
whoa. If I know Jessica and Michael's videos as well as I think I do, you know they're going to do it justice. Yeah,
they did tell me when I was speaking to them at HorrorCon about it, and I said, "Oh, have you been to? You need to go to the Hellfire Caves," and they were like, "Yeah, we've just done that video." I was like, "Good, that's what I like to hear."
Brilliant. This movie is not. It's not the best movie. It's not by far the worst movie, but it is. It has its place in horror history. Joe Bob Briggs, fucking loves this movie.
Yeah. It's one of his favorite films, and I can understand why people like it. I get it. If you are a grindhouse exploitation lover, then this is right up your street. I mean, for me, I love the monster idea of it all, and I love the fact that he's a conjoined twin. That
so different.
Yeah,
it's not your atypical monster.
And we're at a point where we've seen monsters, and we've seen monsters, and we've seen monsters, and monsters, and monsters. This guy is a monster. It is a proper monster movie in respect of that the main bad guy or empathetic character is a monster, and that's something that we can't do now. We cannot do as a movie. I will. That is a sweeping statement. So I'm sorry, Mike. I know you will correct me on that one, but
sorry, Michael.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. but I don't think we can do as well. I'll rephrase it.
Yeah.
I think I can't think of one single monster movie that's come out in the last 4 or 5 years off the top of my head that has made me sit back and go, wow,
Wow.
that's different. I haven't seen anything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about revisiting an old film I haven't seen before. I'm talking like a brand new release in the last 4 or 5 years. By all means, correct me if I'm wrong. Please message
Mike will.
the page, message Mark, Mike. I'm sure Mike will tell me that he'll list 1,000 of them, because you know the horror
Mike.
asylum that he does run, he watches a lot of movies. So
Yeah, he knows his shit.
yeah.
Do you think, before we start to wrap this up, do you think they could potentially do this now?
I think they could, but it's how they do it.
And do you think Blumhouse would get involved?
I can bet my left tit on it. He ain't got a single new idea in that man's
No.
head. He just Jason Blum, just no.
I am getting there, mind. I hate the fact that I am getting there. I am starting to understand.
It's not for me to tell people to hate them. This is a personal
No, you've never done that. You'll never take Happy Death Day away from us.
No, I mean, the thing is, right, you get the odd one that comes along that's a Blumhouse and you go, okay.
Oh, that was all right.
But then he flogs it to death.
Yeah, he
Like
did.
Purge. I'm sure that was Blumhouse. The original Purge was a Blumhouse movie.
I'm just going to say yes and agree with you.
Now, the original one, I thought the first one was fantastic, unlike anything you'd ever seen at the time. But when you've had 5 or 6 sequels of that, and you're at a point where you're just like, I don't need to see it anymore. It's the same thing happening over and over and over again.
And don't they have a TV show as well? It is Blumhouse.
Yeah. But this is the thing, he'll take one like Happy Death Day. Did you need Happy Death Day 2? No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. It was actually perfect by itself. Like, honest, as the first one, it's perfect. It's a brilliant slasher movie.
And then when he goes into the thing of where he's exhausted flogging a good movie to death, he'll then pick a movie that was already made and remake it for no reason.
BasketCase.
It's a possibility. I mean, he will do it badly, and he will make PG-17 choices on a lot of the
Yeah. I'm actually really surprised it hasn't already been attempted. Nobody's really gone into that style of monster movie, like that I can think of right now.
I mean, I know that if we're talking about exploitation, Elijah Wood, like I said, remade Maniac, which is the one of the guy that goes around and scalps women and then keeps their scalps on mannequins. And Maniac,
we are gonna cover
insane.
this. Please tell me what I don't get to see that.
Yeah, it's an original, and then Elijah Wood plays the maniac in the thing, and I'm sure it's
I've heard you said it was brilliant.
Yeah, I'm sure his company remade his one that he did. But that was a way of taking a low budget movie, an exploitation film that had no money, and even then having a relatively low budget to remake it, but keeping it in the same wheelhouse, but obviously having more money, but not going to a place where you're taking away from the original the kills. You know, it's different. It's people. I kind of understand that you can't CG too much.
Yeah,
I feel like if Blumhouse was to get their hands on Belial now, it would be nothing but CG.
Yeah,
it would be a CG blob that could suddenly grow legs and walk.
They probably would make him walk. Yeah, they probably would find a way for him to be able to walk. The most charming part about Belial is unapologetic ugliness of him.
He never puts any lipstick on.
No, doesn't tart himself up or anything like that.
He doesn't even roll himself in glitter, that turd, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Right.
Oh, have you got any more on BasketCase?
I don't. I mean, I'm glad we've done it. I feel like because there's going to be a lot of movies like this where we both sit here and we're like, "What the hell did we?"
We think it was such a good idea at the time.
The majority of them are going to be 80s jobs as well, so they're going to be so far removed from sanity that we are going to sit there and go,
Do you think the Blob's ruined us? Do you think we're taking chances on these movies because of how we reacted to the Blob?
yes and no. I mean,
Mm.
I do think to a degree, yes, but then in the same vein that if anybody has watched Into the Darkness, which I know I've mentioned many a time, 1, 2, and 3,
If you haven't watched it, watch it. So good.
it is literally 12 hours. So for any of you that haven't got a good attention span, everyone is about 4 hours long. They interview all of the actors that were in the movies that they could get hold of, that they talk about, and it spans from the 80s. I want to say they finished the 90s, but I think they got to mid 90s.
I don't think they're fully complete.
No, I think we're only in the mid 90s in number 3. But I know Corey Taylor had a hand in the first one. He got it made, Corey Taylor from Slipknot.
Yeah.
And then Elvira Cassandra Peterson had a hand in making the third one. So
the people of the horror industry, and I know you might say Corey's not part of the horror industry, but however, Corey is a huge part of the horror industry, or the horror community, I should say, not industry, but community. They've all played a part in making this happen. This is kind of like, this is your encyclopedia. This is your visual encyclopedia for horror. It literally covers everything. And it is so well put together. The interviews, the people, it is brilliantly done.
So
there
are a hell of a lot of movies they pick in this that I think we will be watching purely because it's horror history. It's something that I feel like as a horror fan, I'm not an elitist in any way, right? You like what you like, I like what I like. I really am going to give you a lecture if you like something I don't. It's really, I'm not going to force the issue. If you don't like it, that's cool.
Hey, I like Broken Lizards Club Dread. Not everyone's fucking cup of tea, but I still like it.
But like, I feel like you have to, with any genre of movie, film, music, you have to be able to go back and listen to stuff or watch stuff from way back when to get a gauge on how we got to where we are now.
Yeah.
Which in some cases you wish we'd stayed in some of those previous eras because what we get now is dog shit. But it's all down to personal preference and personal taste. But if you are someone that would like to know about your horror movie history a bit more, the best way to do it without having to spend hours on the internet is literally watching 1, 2, and 3 of Into the Darkness. They're all on Shudder. I'm pretty sure if you're a Shudder subscriber, they're for free.
They are. You can buy them individually. Yeah. I bought because I saw the first one on Shudder, and because on one of my birthdays a few years ago, it was in a lockdown situation, I bought the second one, and they wished me a happy birthday. They are lovely, lovely people, and if you go and follow Into the Darkness, you will find that they don't hide anything from anyone. Whatever's coming out, whoever they're working with, they always have some way for you to participate, for you to pre-order some, like, and everything's kind of like a gift. Like the Corey Taylor one was like a VHS set and everything, wasn't it? It was something special. It was it was something really special.
It's technically funded by fans, but made by people who, it's like a GoFundMe in a way, but it's not. But they really know what they're talking about, and I know they interviewed Barbara Crampton. I think Jeffrey Combs, Bill Moseley, so many of like
the list is
80s,
unreal.
Because it starts at the 80s and then starts to go through. So you get you get an education in horror, and I feel like everybody should watch those movies.
Absolutely. I feel like we're trying to do our own little education in horror, but because we jump, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but we do jump all over the place. We never stay in one place for too long.
Well, we're trying to learn as we go along as well, because some of these, I mean, I think I've seen, I would say it's fair to say 85 to 90% of the films that we've covered I have seen before. However, there's the odd one that creeps in and surprises you, like the Blob. You know, I didn't know that existed, so when I went to watch it, I was kind of taken aback. And I think that's happened maybe once or twice in the 50. This will be episode 55, I think.
Yeah.
Out. So in the 55 episodes, that's not a bad run-ins that I'm not really knowing what I'm talking about.
I dare say 35, because I am such a creature of habit. Yeah. What you see on my wall right now is me in horror.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed to say, like, I'm very much like The Exorcist and stuff like that. Like, these are my, I mean, you can't see up there, but I do have a Reanimator poster up there. But these are my wheelhouse of horror, and this is where I stay. The Omen is, again, somewhere where I stay. So I'm loving the fact that I'm adventuring outside of my comfort zone. And the most excited I got was when we did the Blob. I know we mentioned the Blob nearly every time we do an episode, but I can't stress enough to you how that changed things for us.
Yeah, it did. It really reset my not passion for the podcast, but passion to know what's next, what more's out there, what I can watch and take in, and without going too low budget constantly, because I feel like there are some crackers there, and there's a hell of a lot of movies that we are yet to cover, but then you're under the radar ones like the Sleepaway Camp we did, like Basket Case, like the Blob, like there's so many that we will get to. I'm sure we'll get to Chud. I'm sure we'll get to Night of the Demons. I'm sure we'll get to so many of those movies that came out. But they are an education in horror.
They are an education, and they have a place in horror history. So they have a place.
I'm excited about, because they're films that set a tone, set a precedent for other movie makers that say that they watched that film and that's what inspired them to become who they are. And that for me.
Can you see what's going on behind me?
Jar Jar's got a life of his own, yeah.
It's Binks trying to fight him. Yeah, Binksy's he's not just trying to fight. It's not this Jar Jar he's trying to fight. It's this Jar Jar. Yeah, he's swiping at him. Sorry, I had a commotion going on behind us. I always seem to have a fucking commotion going on around us at some point. But no, Dan's right. Everything, you know, what we're doing is our little history lesson, and we are doing it for ourselves, but also presenting it to you people, our monster fiends. Well, speaking of movies I've never seen before, next week's episode, you introduce it, you picked it.
Good old Mick. For those of you who know Mick, you're going to be very, very happy we're doing this one. It's loosely based on a true story.
That's how she got me.
Yeah. And we will be introducing you to the world of Wolf Creek.
Da, da, da.
I bloody love Mick. I love milk. Milk? Oh God, let's go to bed now.
Do you?
Right, yeah.
I love milk.
Yes, that's going to be my new slogan. I'm going to have a t-shirt with it on and everything. I love milk.
Oh no, that's what's going to be. So my t-shirt, you know, the whole disclaimer, and at the back, don't be a dick, and at the bottom it's going to put I love milk. Just put it on that one big t-shirt.
It's not Monsters in the Morning like last week. This is Monsters.
No, this is Monster. No, this is we are back to Thursdays. The vibe has changed.
Yeah, I don't look as young as I did apparently. According to Paul, I looked very young last week. Well, that was I just got up.
That's why
I didn't have a day of stress on me, and now I'm like,
we've had a full week of work. Well, someone's got one more day to go. It's not me. Yeah, it's not Friday morning, it's Thursday night. This is why I can't remember names.
Who are you?
I don't know. I never know.
That's an existential question at this time of night, isn't it?
So yeah, Wolf Creek. I'm excited. Dan got me. I mean, I was excited anyway because I'm wanting to explore. It is werewolves, right?
No.
Oh fuck! I thought it was a werewolf movie. I was like, no. I wanted to explore more werewolves.
This is a gore.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how it's not even a slasher. It's in that genre.
Okay, I've heard of it. I've just not looked into it.
Yeah, Stalker Hunter Killer, Outback, Australia, Mick.
I feel like I'm gonna get to know Mick a good deal during this.
Yeah. You'll either love it or hate it, and John Jarrett just plays Mick
perfectly. Well, that's next week, people. We are on YouTube every Monday at 8 o'clock. However, the audio for this episode is available on a Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Because I do it then.
Because Dan doesn't.
I put them up on a Tuesday. Not just this episode, but every episode associated with Nerdy Up North goes up on a Tuesday. Please remember, like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss any episode from the Nerdy Up North crew. The descriptions? The descriptions? The links. The links are in the links for Nerdy Up North, Bleeding Marvelous, and Monsters Up North are where, Dan? It's a good job she fucking knows. They're right down there. Do you know how effective that looks, actually? I actually watched it the other day, and it really does work when you're leaning over and pointing downwards.
It's my... There.
With your claw. Oh, you got your claw. Claws. Sorry. There's been a lot of hands in this for this episode.
Delirious.
Yeah. They're in the description below. I think that's it. I feel like we've done more. This has been a journey.
It's gone better than I thought.
It really has. Isn't that the best thing? I remember when we did Sleepaway Camp and I was so nervous because Sleepaway Camp like has some really dodgy stuff in there to talk about. And I didn't know how it was going to go across, but it was one of the best fucking episodes. Like, I fucking loved doing that episode. It was so funny. And I really enjoyed this one. I hope to God you don't take the fact of all the laughing and everything that we did as we're shitting on this movie. I really hope that's not how you take it.
I don't care how you take it.
Nah. Not this time of night, anyway. Nah. Well, if there's nothing else left to say goodbye, Dan.
I love milk.
Stay spooky, everyone. Bye.